A consumer electronics company known for building smartphones and smartwatches just built an electric vehicle with over 1,500 horsepower. Until now, the electric hyper-performance tier belonged to established automotive heavyweights. Vehicles like the Tesla Model S Plaid set the benchmark for what a high-end EV could do. Accessing that tier of power consistently required a budget well over $100,000. That is the baseline Xiaomi is targeting with the SU7 Ultra. The spec sheet lists 1,548 horsepower and 1,770 newton-meters of torque, all attached to a price tag of roughly $74,000. The question is whether this aggressive pricing and massive power output obsolete the established EV elite, or if the physical and logistical trade-offs make a legacy rival the smarter purchase. Historically, automotive power scales linearly with cost. The more horsepower you want, the more you pay. This scatterplot maps the current electric vehicle market. Most standard EVs cluster here, balancing moderate power with mid-range pricing. If we plot the Tesla Model S Plaid and Audi RS e-tron GT, we see them break away, sitting high on the horsepower axis and far to the right on cost. Then there is the SU7 Ultra. It pushes the vertical axis to an extreme 1,548 horsepower, while pulling the horizontal axis all the way back to the $74,000 mark. A mathematical outlier this extreme requires us to test the spec sheet against the physical limits of weight, battery efficiency, and brand reliability. Xiaomi generates its power using a proprietary tri-motor setup, placing 2 high-output motors at the rear and 1 at the front. This matrix compares raw output. The SU7 Ultra's 1,548 horsepower easily outpaces the Plaid's 1,020 and the Audi's 925. But generating that output requires a 93.7 kilowatt-hour battery pack and massive structural reinforcement. Because of this, the curb weight jumps to 2,655 kilograms. Stopping 2.5 tons of metal moving at hypercar speeds requires extreme hardware, which is why Xiaomi fits the Ultra with massive 430mm carbon ceramic brakes. While the spec sheet dominates straight-line acceleration, managing a 2,655-kilogram payload limits agility on a track, especially when compared to lighter vehicles engineered specifically for cornering. In a straight line, the SU7 Ultra hits 100 kilometers per hour in 2 seconds flat and maxes out at 350 kilometers per hour. To keep a car physically on the ground at those speeds, you have to generate massive aerodynamic downforce, pushing the chassis into the pavement. Xiaomi advertises a 630-kilometer range based on standard testing metrics. However, pushing over 1,500 horsepower against over 2,100 kilograms of aerodynamic drag requires an immense amount of energy. Drive this car at its limit on a track, and that theoretical range will plummet. To compensate for how fast the motors drains the battery under heavy load, the car relies on an 800 to 900-volt high-voltage architecture to charge quickly. Achieving sustained hypercar speeds in an electric vehicle means accepting severe battery drain. You are entirely reliant on having access to high-speed charging infrastructure to stay on the road. The appeal of the $74,000 price tag is strengthened by a tech-heavy interior running HyperOS and a certified 5-star C-NCAP safety rating. Traditional competitors like Audi counter those raw numbers with decades of chassis development, refined driving dynamics, and proven interior build quality. Xiaomi is building its first generation of cars. They do not have the decades of long-term reliability data that legacy automakers possess. Then there is the geographic reality. The SU7 Ultra is currently restricted to the Chinese domestic market. European expansion isn't planned until 2027, and right-hand drive markets will wait until 2028. Buyers have to weigh an incredible performance-to-dollar ratio against the risks of a first-generation product and a multi-year waiting period. Dropping $70,000 to over $100,000 on a performance EV requires looking beyond the raw horsepower and torque figures. This flowchart maps the current high-performance market to 3 distinct buyer priorities. If you require over 1,000 horsepower today, demand access to a proven supercharger network, and want years of reliability data backing your purchase, the Tesla Model S Plaid remains the logical choice. For buyers who prioritize sophisticated driving dynamics, interior build quality, and the prestige of a legacy badge over raw straight-line speed, the Audi RS e-tron GT is the target. But if you are driven by raw specs, want maximum value for your money, and are willing to wait years for international delivery, the Xiaomi SU7 Ultra is your vehicle. It is the ultimate play for an early adopter willing to bet their money on a tech giant's first automotive experiment. Even if you choose to buy a competitor today, the SU7 Ultra has reset the mathematical baseline for a $74,000 car. The legacy automakers will have to adapt their pricing and performance to match, or risk being left behind.